Renee Nicole Good wasn't a public figure or a known activist. She was a 37-year-old mother of three, living her daily life in Minneapolis, when everything changed in a matter of moments. On Wednesday, during an ICE operation in the city, federal agents approached her vehicle. What happened next is still being pieced together, but the encounter ended with a single fatal gunshot fired by an immigration agent while Good was inside her car. News of the shooting spread fast, but details were scarce and confusing in the first hours. Authorities confirmed she had died at the scene, while officials worked to frame the incident as a necessary use of force. Almost immediately, questions began circulating online and within the community. Why was lethal force used? What threat was actually present? And how did a routine enforcement action end with a mother of three dead? By the next day, Minneapolis became the epicenter of a growing wave of anger. Thousands of people pushed through freezing temperatures and gathered near Powderhorn Park, just blocks from where Renee Nicole Good was killed. Snow covered the ground, but the cold did nothing to slow the crowd. Handwritten signs reading, "Ice out," and "Justice for Renee," filled the air, held high by people who said this moment felt personal. As the protest began, a single voice cut through the noise. "Say her name." The crowd answered in unison, "Renee Good." Again and again, her name echoed through the park, turning a private tragedy into a public demand for accountability. For many there, this wasn't just about one shooting, it was about years of fear, tension, and frustration boiling over at once. Within hours, what started in Minneapolis spread far beyond Minnesota. Organizers announced that more than 1,000 rallies were planned across the United States under the slogan ICE, Out for Good. The phrase carried a double meaning, a call to dismantle the agency, and a reference to Renee Nicole Good, whose name had become the symbol of a rapidly growing movement. From Philadelphia to New York, Washington, D.C. to Boston, crowds gathered despite rain, snow, and freezing winds. In some cities, dozens showed up. In others, the numbers swelled into the hundreds. Protesters marched from city halls to ICE field offices, chanting, holding candles, and demanding answers. In Los Angeles and Houston, demonstrators waved flags and signs accusing federal agents of acting with unchecked power. What stood out wasn't just the size of the protests, but how fast they formed. Many were organized overnight, fueled by social media and raw emotion. And as the demonstrations multiplied, the pressure on the federal government intensified, setting the stage for a sharp and controversial response from Washington. As the demonstrations grew, the story stopped being just about Minneapolis. Rallies erupted almost simultaneously across the country, with organizers claiming more than 1,000 events planned in a single weekend. The slogan ICE, Out for Good, began appearing everywhere, spray-painted on posters, printed on banners, and chanted in unison, carrying both a demand to end the agency's actions and a direct reference to Renee Nicole Good. In Philadelphia, protesters marched through heavy rain from City Hall to the local ICE field office. In New York and Washington, D.C., crowds gathered outside federal buildings, accusing immigration authorities of operating without accountability. Boston, Los Angeles, and Houston followed, each protest reflecting the same message. This wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a much larger pattern. What made this moment different was the speed. These protests weren't planned weeks in advance, they exploded overnight. And as images of packed streets and raised fists flooded social media, it became clear the federal response would only determine whether the movement faded or intensified even further. As the protests gained momentum, the Trump administration moved quickly to take control of the narrative. Federal officials described the ICE agent involved in the shooting as acting in self-defense, insisting the situation unfolded in a split second and left no other option. Then came a statement that stunned many observers. The administration began referring to Renee Nicole Good as a domestic terrorist. That label immediately ignited backlash. Critics questioned how a 37-year-old mother of three, sitting in her car, could be framed as a national security threat. Civil rights advocates and local leaders warned that the language felt deliberate, designed to justify force before all the facts were known. To many protesters, it sounded less like an explanation and more like an attempt to shut down scrutiny. As scrutiny intensified, attention shifted to who was actually in charge of investigating the shooting. The FBI confirmed it had taken the lead on the case, but officials in Minnesota revealed that local law enforcement agencies were largely shut out of the process. That revelation immediately raised alarms among residents and community leaders who felt decisions were being made behind closed doors. Local officials questioned why those closest to the community, and most familiar with the area, were excluded from an incident that had already shaken public trust. Some argued that removing local oversight only deepened suspicions that federal agencies were protecting their own. Others warned that without independent involvement, the investigation would struggle to earn credibility. Data collected by outlets tracking federal enforcement, like The Trace, suggest that Renee Nicole Good's death is part of a troubling pattern. Since the launch of the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign, at least 4 people have been killed by federal immigration agents, and 7 others injured. Each case involved rapid high-stakes encounters that quickly escalated to lethal force. For immigrant communities, these numbers are more than statistics, they're a source of fear. Families worry that routine enforcement actions could turn deadly, and neighbors are questioning how far the government is willing to go to carry out its policies. Advocates argue that these deaths reveal systemic issues within the way ICE conducts operations, particularly when oversight and accountability are limited. What began as one tragic shooting in Minneapolis has now become a symbol of a broader struggle: how federal power is exercised, and whether enforcement can be carried out without crossing the line into unnecessary violence. But as national attention grows, so does the mobilization of those who refuse to stay silent. The shooting happened in seconds, but the reaction has lasted days and spread across the entire country. One woman, sitting in her car in Minneapolis, was killed by a federal immigration agent, and now her name is being shouted in streets from New York to Los Angeles. The government says it was self-defense. Critics say the footage tells a very different story. And as protests explode nationwide, this case is quickly becoming more than a single incident. It's turning into a defining test of power, force, and accountability in America's immigration crackdown. Renee Nicole Good's death has become more than a single tragedy. It's a flashpoint in a nationwide debate over power, accountability, and the limits of law enforcement. Across the country, her name echoes in protests, rallies, and social media posts, symbolizing both grief and outrage. Conflicting narratives, disputed footage, and a tightly controlled investigation have left many Americans questioning what really happened, and whether justice will ever be served. The protests, the national attention, and the growing scrutiny of ICE's actions suggest that this incident will not fade quietly. It forces a larger question onto the national stage. When the enforcement of policy turns deadly, who is held accountable, and how do communities protect themselves from forces that operate beyond immediate oversight? As the nation watches, one fact remains clear: Renee Good's story has ignited a conversation about authority, force, and human life that will not be easily ignored. And what happens next could reshape how the United States approaches immigration, justice, and the power of its federal agencies for years to come.